Have you ever walked through a season when hope felt distant, and the road ahead seemed quiet and unsure? When prayers turned to whispers, and even faith seemed to walk a few steps behind? Tonight, we walk a road like that. A dusty path that winds from Jerusalem toward a small village called Emmaus. Two travelers move through fading light, hearts heavy, eyes downcast, souls still trembling from all that has happened. It is a story of loss, and of finding, of sorrow turned into recognition, of Christ walking beside us, even when unseen. If these stories bring you peace, take a quiet moment to like this video, subscribe for more gentle nightly reflections, and share where you're listening from tonight. Your presence helps keep this circle of calm warm and growing. Now, take a slow breath. Let the weight of the day fall from your shoulders. The story begins. The sun lowers behind the Judean hills, its light spilling softly across the stony ground. The road is quiet, except for footsteps and the low murmur of conversation. Two disciples walk side by side, their cloaks pulled close against the evening wind. Jerusalem lies behind them, its shouts and sorrow fading into distance, like a memory that still aches. They speak of their teacher, the one they believed was sent to redeem Israel. They speak of his power, his gentleness, his death, and of the strange reports from that morning. An empty tomb, women saying angels had spoken. But none of it fits together, and their hearts are weary from trying to understand. The road stretches ahead, long and familiar, yet heavy with absence. Every sound, the rustle of olive branches, the call of a shepherd far off, the sigh of wind through dry grass, feels slower tonight, as if creation itself mourns. Then, quietly, another sound joins theirs. Footsteps, unhurried, kind. A stranger has come alongside them. He matches their pace, as if he has always walked this way. He asks, "What are you discussing as you walk along?" Oi. They stop for a moment, sadness written across their faces. One answers softly, "Are you the only one visiting Jerusalem who doesn't know what has happened?" Oi. And their story spills out. The cross, the loss, the rumor of resurrection, each word trembling between doubt and longing. The stranger listens, not with impatience, but with deep compassion. When they finish, he begins to speak, his voice calm, low, steady like a river in evening light. He opens the scriptures, and the road begins to glow with quiet meaning. Every word feels like warmth returning to a cold heart. They do not recognize him yet, but something within them begins to stir. A peace, deep and unspoken, rises through their grief, like dawn pressing against the horizon. The miles pass gently, unnoticed. The ache softens, replaced by wonder they cannot name. And somewhere between one breath and the next, the journey becomes holy. The road narrows toward Emmaus, and the lamps of the village flicker ahead. The travelers slow their steps, not wanting the conversation to end. They do not know that the light walking beside them is the same light that first broke the darkness of the tomb. They only know this, their hearts feel strangely alive. And so, as the evening deepens, they turn to him and whisper, "Stay with us, for it is almost night." Oi! He nods and follows them toward the glow of home. The door opens, a table waits, and heaven prepares to reveal itself in the breaking of bread. The road winds gently through the hills, dust rising soft beneath their feet, the light thinning into gold and grey. The two travelers walk in silence for a while, the kind of silence that follows heartbreak, where every word feels too heavy, and every thought circles the same ache. They had believed that Jesus of Nazareth was the one, the promised Redeemer, the hope of their people. They had seen his miracles, heard his voice calm storms, watched him lift the broken, and call sinners by name. But then, they saw him taken, condemned, crucified. And now, 3 days later, they walk this road, trying to make sense of what remains. Their steps are slow, their faces shadowed by loss. The city of Jerusalem lies behind them, a place of miracles and memories, and a cross that changed everything. They speak softly, their voices low, like embers glowing beneath ash. "We had hoped," one says, and the words tremble as they fall. "We had hoped he was the one who would redeem Israel." Hope. Past tense. The sound of a dream laid down. The other nods, unable to add more. Sometimes grief does not speak in sentences, only in shared silence. They tell of the empty tomb, of the women who spoke of angels, of how some ran to see and found only emptiness. They want to believe, but disbelief feels safer than being broken again. The air cools as the sun lowers. Shadows grow long across the path, stretching toward Emmaus like hands reaching for home. They do not notice how gently the evening gathers around them. They do not see how mercy has already begun to walk beside them. Close your eyes for a moment and picture the road. Long, quiet, golden with fading light. The ache in the traveler's hearts mirrors our own. When faith feels distant, and God seems silent, we, too, have walked this road. We, too, have whispered, we had hoped. We, too, have looked for Christ, and seen only absence. Yet even when unseen, He walks beside us. Even when our hearts ache with questions, He listens without judgment. The stranger has already joined the path. His pace unhurried, His presence steady, His silence full of compassion. He listens to their sorrow, not to correct it, but to carry it. The wind moves through the olive trees, the sound like soft breath against the sky. A single bird calls once, then stills. The road grows quiet, but not empty. For soon, grief will meet grace, and sorrow will discover that it was never walking alone. The road bends gently along the hillside, and the last warmth of sunlight brushes their faces. Their footsteps slow, the rhythm heavy with thoughts they cannot name. Then, softly, another rhythm joins theirs. Footsteps, calm, unhurried, matching their pace with effortless grace. They turn and see a traveler approaching. A man, simple in appearance, dust on his sandals, the quiet confidence of one accustomed to long roads. He greets them with a kindness that disarms, his tone low, steady, like a voice that already knows the question before it's asked. What are you discussing as you walk along? Oi! The two stop, their faces shadowed by sadness. One of them, Cleopatra, answers, his voice roughened by grief. Are you the only visitor in Jerusalem who doesn't know what has happened there? Oi! The stranger tilts his head gently. What things? Oi! And so, they begin to tell him everything. About Jesus of Nazareth, a prophet mighty in word and deed. About how their leaders condemned him and handed him over to be crucified. About how their hearts had hoped he was the one to redeem Israel. About how the third day had come, and his tomb was found empty. Angels speaking of life, but his face unseen. Their words tumble out, half story, half lament. The grief pours freely, and the stranger listens without interrupting. Every pause, every sigh, he receives as though it were prayer. Close your eyes and imagine this moment. The road stretching before them, long and dim with twilight. The soft sound of 3 sets of footsteps, a gentle rhythm between earth and heaven. 2 hearts spilling their sorrow, and 1 heart, divine, carrying it quietly within himself. The stranger's silence is not distance. It is invitation. The space where comfort can take root. When they finish, he speaks. His words rise like dawn over tired ground. How foolish you are, and how slow to believe all that the prophets have spoken. The tone is not harsh, but tender, a teacher smiling through compassion. Did not the Messiah have to suffer these things, and then enter his glory? And as he speaks, the world itself seems to listen. The road brightens faintly. The air softens. Their hearts begin to warm. He opens the scriptures to them, from Moses to the prophets, tracing a thread of grace through every promise. The words do not come as lessons, but as life itself. Every phrase kindles something within them. Every pause holds peace. Every truth unfolds like a blossom in dusk light. They do not yet see who he is, but the ache inside them begins to change shape. Grief loosens its grip, and hope, still small, begins to breathe again. The miles pass unnoticed. The road narrows between olive groves, where shadows move like prayer across the ground. The stranger's presence feels familiar now, not like a guest, but like someone they had always known. Something deep within them stirs. A memory older than sight. A peace that feels remembered rather than new. And yet, they cannot name it. The veil of recognition still rests softly across their eyes. The road ahead glows faintly with the promise of home. But before they reach it, hearts will burn, bread will break, and heaven will whisper its quiet revelation. The sun has nearly slipped below the hills, leaving a soft copper glow upon the fields. The air is cool now, and the faint scent of wood smoke drifts from the distant village. The two travelers listen as the stranger speaks, his voice calm, low, measured like breath itself. Each word moves like a lantern before them, lighting what they thought was lost. The scriptures unfold gently in his hands, prophecy meeting purpose, suffering woven with glory. And yet, their hearts wrestle between wonder and disbelief. They had seen him die. They had watched his body lowered from the cross. They had seen the tomb sealed with stone and guarded by soldiers. How could hope still live when the one who carried it had fallen silent? As the stranger speaks, their memories return in fragments. The crowds, shouting Hosanna. The miracles, the laughter, the compassion. The night in the garden, the sound of chains, the torches in the dark. Each memory both beautiful and unbearable. Faith flickers like a candle, half sheltered, half smothered by the wind of fear. They want to believe him, but disbelief feels like armor, a shield against being wounded once more. So they listen, and still do not see. The heart's eyes open slower than the mind's. The stranger continues, his tone steady, filled with patience that feels older than time itself. Was it not necessary, he says softly, for the Messiah to suffer these things, and then to enter his glory? Oi! The words hang in the air, and something stirs within them. Not understanding yet, but recognition of peace. It's as if the very air around them breathes differently, as though the road itself has grown gentler beneath their feet. Their hearts warm, their steps ease, and for the first time in days, the ache of despair softens. Close your eyes for a moment, and walk with them. Feel the road beneath your feet, the evening light dimming into gold and violet. You, too, may have known this kind of doubt. The quiet ache between belief and surrender. The fragile space between "I hoped" and "I trust." Oi! And still, he walks beside you. He does not rebuke your slowness to believe. He does not scold your weary questions. He simply stays, matching your pace, teaching gently, until truth feels like comfort again. The first stars begin to appear, thin and small against the deepening sky. Their light reflects in the stranger's eyes, and though they do not yet see him, they feel seen. The road begins to level, the hills easing into softer land. Emmaus lies not far ahead, and the stranger's words have turned their sorrow into something quieter, something almost sacred. They do not speak for a while. The silence between them hums with warmth, like a hearth after firelight. Faith, still forming, rests gently between disbelief and dawning hope. The road ahead glows faintly with promise. They walk, and though night gathers, their hearts begin to glow like small lamps carried through the dark. The road narrows now, curling gently through fields brushed by twilight. The air carries the scent of earth and grain, a hush that feels like prayer settling over the land. The stranger walks beside them still, his steps calm, his presence quiet, and yet, the weight of his words fills the evening like light filling a lamp. He begins to speak again, not as one who studies the scriptures, but as one who wrote them. Every phrase comes alive. Each promise blooms open like a flower long waiting for dawn. Do you not remember, he says softly, how Moses lifted the serpent in the wilderness? So the Son of Man must be lifted up, that whoever believes in him shall have life. The travelers listen, their hearts leaning closer to his voice. He speaks of the prophets, of Isaiah's words, "He was wounded for our transgressions, bruised for our iniquities. and by his stripes we are healed. He speaks of the Psalms, of David's cry, "You will not abandon your Holy One to decay." Every verse they had heard since childhood suddenly weaves into a single thread of meaning. Every promise, every symbol, every story turns its face toward one truth. The Messiah was never meant to avoid suffering, but to redeem it. They walk slower now, each word a gentle unfolding, each breath a revelation. And though the night gathers around them, their hearts begin to shine within. Close your eyes for a moment, and imagine the road beneath your feet, the rhythm of walking beside the Word Himself. The scriptures you've read, the verses you've whispered in fear or hope, are not distant echoes from long ago. They are living breaths of the one who walks beside you now. Every story of deliverance, every psalm of sorrow and praise, every promise of comfort, was written with you in mind. The Word made flesh still makes His dwelling among us. Even when unseen, He teaches through silence, through memory, through the calm that follows prayer. The stranger's tone grows warmer, his eyes reflecting the dim light like coals beneath ash. And as he speaks, something ancient stirs within the disciples. It is not understanding, not yet, but recognition of presence. Their grief has begun to loosen, not because all questions are answered, but because they no longer walk alone. Every word feels like fire disguised as whisper. Every pause carries peace. The scriptures unfold before them, not as a map to follow, but as a mirror reflecting the face of God's faithfulness. The travelers glance at each other, their eyes wet with something they cannot name. They do not dare ask who He is, but neither do they wish the journey to end. The world around them grows darker, but within, a soft glow continues to rise. A warmth that is not of earth, a comfort that is not of logic, a fire kindled by truth itself. And though they do not yet know it, their hearts are beginning to burn. The village of Emmaus waits just ahead, lamps flickering at the edge of night. But for now, the road is enough, for the Word walks upon it. The road has grown quiet now, the sound of their steps softened by dust and dusk. The last light of day lingers upon the horizon, a pale ribbon of gold fading slowly into blue. The stranger continues to speak, each word steady and alive, each pause filled with meaning too deep for language. His voice carries warmth, not the heat of argument, but the calm fire of revelation. And as he speaks, something begins to stir inside them. A faint quickening of spirit, a pulse of recognition, a warmth that begins in the heart and spreads outward like sunrise after rain. Their grief, which had clung like a shadow, begins to lift. Not vanished, but changed. It becomes softer, lighter, touched by understanding. The words of the prophets, once heavy with mystery, now feel close, intimate, familiar. Every promise, every verse, seems to breathe again. They feel it, not in the mind, but in the deep, wordless places of the soul. Their hearts burn within them, but it is not the fire of pain. It is recognition. It is remembrance. It is love stirring awake. Close your eyes for a moment, and let that warmth touch you too. Think of moments when peace arrived quietly, without explanation. When comfort found you in the middle of confusion. When strength returned though nothing had changed. That is the presence walking beside you. Christ speaks still, not always through thunder, but through warmth, through calm, through a sense that all will be well, even if you cannot yet see how. The disciples do not yet name what they feel, but they know something holy is near. The road seems shorter, the air lighter, the night less dark. The world has not changed, but they have begun to awaken within it. The stranger speaks of how God's glory is often hidden in humility, how redemption wears the garments of pain before it shines, how the road of suffering leads not to despair, but to resurrection. His words wrap around them like a mantle of light, and the fire within their hearts grows brighter. They exchange a glance, a silent question in their eyes. Do you feel it too? One nods, the other smiles faintly. They cannot explain the warmth that fills their chests, the sudden clarity, the quiet joy rising beneath their sorrow. It feels as though the stranger's words are not merely about God, but that they are spoken from Him. And though they still do not recognize His face, they have already begun to recognize His Spirit. The road winds toward the low lights of Emmaus. The day nearly spent. And still, they listen. The world grows dim, but within them, the light continues to rise. Hearts burning quietly, faith rekindled, love awakening. And somewhere between one breath and the next, the distance between earth and heaven grows thin. The road to Emmaus winds gently through the fading hills, its stones softened by shadow, its air filled with the scent of evening earth. The two travelers do not notice how far they've come, or how the day has folded into night. Time, it seems, has lost its edges. For when hearts are burning, distance becomes weightless, and every step feels like grace unfolding. The stranger's words have wrapped around them, like warmth around cold hands. The scriptures, once like puzzle pieces scattered in dust, now form a picture that breathes with purpose. They walk slower now, not from weariness, but from awe. Each step feels sacred, each pause like a prayer they did not plan to pray. And though they do not yet see him, they feel him nearer than breath. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine that road. The air cool and still, the quiet hum of crickets in the grass, the rhythm of 3 sets of footsteps, moving as one. You have known such moments too. Times when the pain of yesterday seemed to lose its grip. Not because all was solved, but because peace had drawn near. You did not call it by name then, but later, you realized it was him. That same presence still walks beside you. The hills grow softer, and the lamps of Emmaus flicker in the distance. Tiny fires shining through the veil of dusk. The road that once felt endless has shortened without their knowing. The stranger's voice, gentle and low, has filled the empty miles with meaning. And now, as they near the village, a quiet sorrow returns. The kind that comes when something beautiful feels like it might end. They slow their pace, not wanting the journey to close. For where he walks, the world feels alive again. Their hearts, once heavy as stone, now pulse with warmth and wonder. They reach the gate of the village, and the stranger turns as if to continue on his way. Their breath catches. The thought of letting him go feels impossible. So they speak quickly, their voices trembling with both kindness and longing. Stay with us, for it is nearly evening, and the day is almost over. Oi! He pauses, smiles softly, and nods. They lead him toward their home, the last glow of sunset tracing his face in gentle gold. The air hums with a stillness that feels holy, the kind that comes just before revelation. Inside the house, a table waits. Bread upon it, wine beside it, lamplight ready to bloom. The travelers do not yet know that the one they have begged to stay is the one who never truly left. That the hands about to break the bread are the same that broke death itself. And that in this quiet village, before the fire of a simple meal, heaven will open softly and be known in the breaking of bread. Night begins to settle, folding itself gently over the hills like a cloak. The air carries the scent of smoke and bread, the rhythm of distant voices preparing for rest. The travelers stand near the gate of Emmaus, their faces lit by the faint glow of oil lamps in the windows ahead. The stranger turns as if to continue down the road, his figure outlined softly against the last light of the sky. For a moment, they watch him. He seems content to walk on, to vanish quietly into the deepening dusk. But their hearts, those newly burning hearts, cannot bear to let him go. "Stay with us," they say, their voices barely above a whisper, gentle with longing, trembling with something they do not yet understand. "Stay with us, for it is nearly evening, and the day is almost over." Oi! The stranger pauses, turns slowly toward them, and smiles. It is a smile that holds the warmth of morning and the patience of eternity. He inclines his head and follows them through the narrow lane toward home. Close your eyes for a moment and picture that walk. 3 figures moving through the soft light of lanterns, the sound of sandals upon stone, the hush that fills the air when something sacred is near. The stranger's presence fills the space around them, not with grandeur, but with peace. His silence speaks louder than words. The house they enter is small, its walls rough with age, but the warmth within feels vast. A clay lamp flickers in the corner, casting soft shadows across the room. The travelers move with quiet reverence, as though aware of unseen angels keeping company with them. One of them brings water for washing. Another sets bread upon the table. The stranger removes his cloak, lays it gently aside, and sits at the table with them. The sound of the chair against the floor, the faint crackle of the lamp's flame, the settling of evening outside, all weave together into a single stillness. It is a stillness that holds expectancy. Something is near. They speak softly of the scriptures he opened on the road, of the peace that still lingers in their hearts. Their words drift like the lamp's light, gentle, steady, warm. The stranger listens with kindness, his eyes reflecting the flame. When they pause, he looks toward the bread, and for a heartbeat, everything stills. The world beyond the walls grows quiet, as though creation itself leans closer. The faintest breeze stirs through the window, and the flame trembles. He reaches for the bread, his hands steady, familiar, scarred by love unseen. And though they do not yet know him, their spirits rise to meet the moment. The air hums with reverence. Time itself seems to slow. Something eternal gathers in that small room, a holiness wrapped in the ordinary. The table, the bread, the company, all become more than they appear. For where Christ abides, the simplest moments become doorways to heaven. The travelers do not yet see the threshold they stand upon, but the heart always knows before the eyes. They have asked him to stay, and now he will reveal what staying truly means. The room is quiet now. soft with the hush that comes before a holy moment. The oil lamp flickers gently, its flame breathing light across the table's worn surface. Outside, the sounds of evening fade, a dog barking once in the distance, a door closing, the faint rustle of wind through olive leaves. Inside, time seems to slow, and the air feels different, alive, expectant. The stranger sits between them, his presence steady, peaceful, unhurried. The two travelers watch as he reaches for the bread. His hands, strong and gentle, lift it slowly, as though the act itself is a prayer. He looks upward, eyes soft with remembrance, and blesses it. The words are simple, but they carry eternity within them. Then, he breaks the bread, and the sound, small, familiar, tender, seems to echo through heaven itself. He extends his hands, offering the pieces to them. The light from the lamp touches his wrists, and in that fragile moment, they see the marks, the scars of love, the same hands that once broke bread on the hillside, that healed the blind, that calmed the storm, now rest before them, scarred, radiant, alive. Their breath catches, their hearts stop, and then rush forward as realization floods in. The stranger, the teacher, the one they thought lost, is here, alive, present. The veil falls away, and they know him. Their eyes, once heavy with grief, shine now with awe. The room glows brighter, as if the light within him has filled every shadow. And in that single heartbeat, the distance between heaven and earth disappears. Close your eyes for a moment, and imagine it. The one you feared gone, sitting across from you, smiling softly, breaking bread. The silence, no longer empty, but full of wonder. The sorrow, no longer heavy, but transfigured into joy. This is what revelation feels like. Not thunder or lightning, but the gentle opening of eyes to what was present all along. They look at him, love and disbelief tangled in the same breath. Their souls tremble between tears and laughter. Every step of their sorrow, every ache of the journey, suddenly makes sense. He had walked with them the whole time. Their grief was the doorway, and the breaking of bread, the light that entered through it. The moment is full, perfect, and just as they reach toward him, he vanishes from their sight. No sound, no movement, only stillness, and the warmth that remains. He is gone, but not absent. Invisible, yet nearer than before. The bread remains broken on the table, its scent filling the room, its meaning eternal. The light in their hearts burns brighter than ever. Recognition has become revelation, and the presence still fills the room. The room is silent, but alive. Stillness fills every corner, as though heaven itself is breathing quietly within the walls. The two disciples sit motionless, hands trembling, hearts racing in the aftermath of revelation. The lamp flickers softly, its light falling upon the broken bread, still resting where his hands had been. Moments ago, they had not seen him. Moments ago, they thought their hope was buried forever. And now, they have looked into the face of life itself. Their eyes, still wet with tears, shine with wonder. They do not speak for a while. Words cannot hold what has just filled their souls. Only breath, only heartbeat, only the sacred hush that comes when faith becomes sight. He had vanished from their eyes, but not from their hearts. For what he left behind was not emptiness, but awakening. Every word he had spoken on the road now burns within them. Every scripture he unfolded now sings in their minds like a new song. The warmth that began on the journey has become a fire that will not fade. The room still holds his peace. They can almost feel his nearness, not beside them now, but within them. Love does not leave when unseen. It multiplies. They turn to one another, their voices trembling with awe. Did not our hearts burn within us, while he talked with us on the road, and opened the scriptures to us? Oi! They both nod, tears falling freely now. They remember his voice, gentle, patient, kind. They remember how the world grew lighter with every word. And they realize, the moment they first began to heal was not when they saw him, but when they listened. His presence had been with them all along. And now, they can see that truth blazing clear. Close your eyes for a moment, and breathe in the stillness. Think of all the moments in your own journey, when Christ was near, though unrecognized. The comfort that came from nowhere. The courage that found you in silence. The peace that entered like light through a half-open door. He was there, walking your road, listening to your grief, breaking your bread. And even now, he is here, still walking unseen, still speaking softly, still opening eyes in his own gentle time. The disciples rise from their seats, the air still trembling with holiness. Their sorrow has turned to joy, their weariness to wonder. The room glows as if lit from within. They can no longer stay still. Their hearts demand motion. Their joy must be shared. They look toward the door, toward the dark road that leads back to Jerusalem, the same road that had once carried their despair. Now, it will carry their hope. Their bodies still tired from the day, but their spirits alight with purpose. They gather what they can, wrap their cloaks, and prepare to leave. The table remains behind, the bread still warm, the lamp still flickering. But the presence goes with them. And somewhere beyond the walls of that quiet house, the stars begin to shine more brightly, as though the heavens themselves rejoice that faith has seen, and seen truly. Christ has revealed himself, and the world will never be the same. The room is still, the lamp's flame steady and low, the bread broken upon the table, its scent mingling with the cool breath of night. The disciples remain seated, their bodies motionless, their souls trembling between awe and peace. He has vanished from their sight, yet the air is full of him. Every shadow feels softened, every heartbeat carries his name. The silence does not feel empty, it feels full, full of presence, full of memory, full of meaning that words could never hold. The two men look at each other, their faces glowing in the lamplight. Neither speaks for a moment. Language has fallen away, like a ladder no longer needed once heaven has touched earth. They do not mourn his leaving, for he is not gone. His absence is a new kind of nearness. He is not across the table now, but within them. Not in front of their eyes, but behind them, within their hearts, woven into breath itself. The silence begins to hum, gentle, steady, alive. A rhythm not of sound, but of spirit. And in that rhythm, they feel the truth take root. He lives. He is here. He will never leave again. Close your eyes for a moment, and breathe in that same silence. Let it fill you. Soft, weightless, whole. There are silences in our lives that ache with longing. But there are other silences that heal. This is one of those. The silence that follows revelation is not the end of speaking. It is the beginning of understanding. When words end, faith begins. The disciples begin to remember every step of the road, the sound of his voice, the warmth of his teaching, the feeling that had stirred within their chests. Every detail now glows with purpose. They see it clearly. He had been there all along. In their questions, in their sadness, in their slowness to believe, he was there. Grace had walked beside them, listening, waiting, revealing itself at the perfect time. They whisper together, their voices soft as prayer. Did not our hearts burn within us, while he talked with us on the road, and opened the scriptures to us? Oi! Yes. Their hearts had known, long before their eyes could see. The heart always knows first. The spirit recognizes what the mind cannot grasp. The silence deepens and becomes a sanctuary. Every breath an offering, every heartbeat worship. The world outside continues. The wind sighs through the olive trees. The stars shimmer above the quiet roofs of Emmaus. But here, within this small room, heaven has made its dwelling. The table is simple. Bread, wine, a flickering flame. Yet it is enough. For in this moment, they have touched eternity. They close their eyes and sit in that silence a little longer. Not to cling to it, but to let it settle inside them. To let the peace remain. They know what they must do next. But for now, they rest in the silence that speaks. The quiet after glory. The calm that follows revelation. They have seen the Lord, and their souls will never be the same. The silence holds them for a while, like a gentle hand resting upon their hearts. The lamp flickers softly, its flame bending and straightening with every breath of the room. Their minds race, their spirits overflow, and the weight of what they've seen begins to settle into wonder. The sorrow that had followed them from Jerusalem now feels distant, like a storm that has moved far beyond the horizon. Only the fragrance of peace remains. The two disciples look at each other, their faces alight with something more than joy, something deeper, something eternal. They cannot stay seated. The stillness of revelation has become the fire of calling. They rise quickly, hands trembling with the urgency of love newly born. "We must go back," one says softly, his voice thick with emotion. "To Jerusalem. Tonight." "Oi." The other nods. There is no fear in his eyes now, only light. The thought of darkness no longer troubles them. The road that had once carried their grief will now carry their witness. They gather their cloaks, tie their sandals, and glance once more toward the table. The bread remains, broken, fragrant, holy. They pause and bow their heads in gratitude, not for what they understand, but for what they have seen. The truth burns within them like fire beneath the ribs. They cannot keep it hidden. The world must know. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine that scene. Two figures illuminated by lamplight. Faces radiant. Hearts newly awakened. The night outside is cool. The stars bright above the hills. Their journey will not be easy. The road uneven. The air still carrying the chill of fear that lingers in Jerusalem. But fear no longer rules them. Faith has taken its place. This is what joy does. It transforms trembling into testimony. It turns returning into rejoicing. The disciples step into the night. The door closes softly behind them, and the wind greets them like an embrace. The path before them glows faintly in the starlight. Every shadow feels thinner now. The darkness cannot hide what the heart has seen. They walk swiftly, their sandals whispering against the stones. The same road they had once walked in despair now feels lighter, shorter, filled with promise. And though the night is deep, it feels as if the dawn is walking with them. They speak as they go, their voices bright with life. Every word turns into praise. They remember the way he had broken the bread, the way his eyes shone with endless compassion. They laugh. They weep. They move like men who have tasted eternity. The road becomes their song. The stars their witnesses. The fire within them does not fade. For joy born of revelation does not tire. It keeps the soul awake long after the body grows weary. And so, through the dark, they walk. Two hearts, burning like twin candles in the windless night. Two souls, carrying the first light of resurrection back into the waiting world. The road that had once felt long and heavy now stretches before them like a ribbon of light. The same stones that once scraped their feet seem soft beneath their stride. The air is cool, the stars wide and clear above the hills. The wind carries the scent of soil and olive trees. And something more, a quiet thrill that hums beneath the night. They do not walk now. They run. Not from fear, but from fullness. From joy so deep it cannot stay still. Their hearts beat fast, not with panic, but with praise. Their sandals slap against the stones, the rhythm of faith reborn. Jerusalem waits miles away, but the distance feels shorter than a heartbeat. For those who have seen the risen Christ, no road is too long. The two travelers speak as they run, their laughter breaking through the night like bells in a quiet town. Do you remember? One gasps between breaths. When he asked what we were discussing on the road. Oi! And how we told him everything. The other laughs. And he listened as if he already knew. Oi! Their joy spills into the darkness, turning the quiet fields into a living psalm. Every word they speak, every memory they share, becomes worship in motion. The tears that once fell from sorrow now fall from wonder, and their hearts, once weary from doubt, now beat with certainty that feels eternal. The road gleams faintly in the starlight, a mirror of heaven's joy reflected upon earth. And though no angel appears before them, the night feels full of unseen companions, as if all creation has joined their race. Close your eyes for a moment, and feel the rush of that faith. The way joy can lift the body beyond its strength. The way belief, once small and trembling, can grow wings when touched by love. You, too, have known this moment. The one when God feels real again. When hope that once felt buried rises, quietly at first, then all at once. That is resurrection. Not only in tombs, but in hearts. The two men keep running. Each step strikes like a heartbeat of praise. Each breath feels like worship. And in the distance, Jerusalem's lights begin to flicker. Faint at first, then growing brighter with every stride. They are no longer the same men who left that city. They had departed in despair, but they return as witnesses. They had walked away broken, but they run back whole. The road feels alive beneath their feet. It seems to whisper with them, "He is risen. He is risen." They laugh aloud through their breathless tears, not caring if the world believes them, because belief has already changed them. And though the night stretches wide and deep, it feels as though dawn has already come. For within their hearts, light has broken through forever. They reach the edge of Jerusalem, the gates still and dark. But to them, the whole city seems to shine. They push forward, past the silent market, past the narrow streets, toward the place where the disciples still hide in fear. They have a message that will change everything. A truth that cannot wait until morning. Their voices break the silence as they run. He is alive. Oi! The Lord has risen indeed. Oi! And the city that once held their sorrow will soon hear the sound of joy reborn. The streets of Jerusalem lie quiet beneath the stars. The city wrapped in sleep, its stone walls still holding the echoes of sorrow and fear. But tonight, two hearts burn too brightly to rest. Their footsteps echo through narrow alleys, breath quick and trembling with wonder. They find the familiar house, the upper room, the door bolted against the world's danger. The sound of their knocking breaks the silence like a sudden wind. "Open the door," one whispers urgently. "It's us. We've seen him." Oi! Inside, footsteps shuffle. Voices murmur in disbelief. The lock clicks, and the door creaks open. A dim light spills into the corridor, revealing weary faces, faces marked by fear. and long nights of waiting. Then they see the two travelers, dusty, breathless, radiant, and before anyone can ask the word pour out, "We have seen the Lord." Oi! Their voices tremble with joy. He walked with us on the road. He opened the scriptures to us. And when he broke the bread, our eyes were opened. Oi! The room fills with gasps, some with hope, some with doubt. The disciples who had stayed behind exchanged glances, a spark of something holy lighting their eyes. One of them whispers, "It's true. The Lord has risen indeed, and has appeared to Simon." Oi! The travelers stop, their breath catching. The truth they carry is not theirs alone. He has been moving everywhere, appearing to hearts ready to see. Their laughter breaks through the walls of fear. The sorrow that had lingered for 3 days melts into joy that cannot be contained. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine that room. Oil lamps glowing, shadows flickering along the walls. A handful of believers, each one trembling between disbelief and wonder. And then, one voice after another, telling stories of encounters, whispers of angels, footsteps heard, bread broken, hearts set aflame. The room grows warm with faith. They speak over one another, like waves crashing upon the same shore. It is not chaos. It is resurrection finding its voice. Each story, each trembling confession, adds another spark to the growing fire of belief. Hope begins to knit the broken community back together. The fear that had locked their doors gives way to courage that will soon open the world. They remember his promise, "Where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there in the midst of them." Oi! And as they speak, they begin to sense it again. That same presence, invisible but unmistakable. The peace that stilled the storm. The warmth that walked the Emmaus road. The love that had broken bread. He is here. A quiet awe falls over the room. Every voice softens. Every heart listens. The air feels thick with holiness, as though time itself has stopped to kneel. For the first time since the cross, their grief and their hope stand together, and both bow before the same truth. Jesus lives, and he is with them still. Tears fill their eyes, some from memory, some from joy. Hands clasped together, heads bow low. And in that dimly lit room, where fear had once dwelled, faith takes its first deep breath. The upper room is alive with whispers, a soft storm of wonder and tears. Voices overlap, each story weaving into another, like threads forming a tapestry of light. The air glows faintly from the lamps, their flames flickering across faces once pale with fear. Now, those same faces are radiant with hope. The two travelers sit among them, their hearts still racing from the road. Their words spill out between laughter and disbelief, as they describe how the stranger had walked beside them, how his voice had calmed their sorrow, how their hearts had burned when he spoke, and how, in the breaking of bread, the veil fell away, and they saw him. The others listen, each story kindling another heart. One disciple speaks of seeing the empty tomb, another of hearing the women's report, and Peter, voice trembling, tells how the Lord himself appeared to him. Every testimony builds upon the next, each one a spark joining the circle of flame. Hope, once shattered, is whole again. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine that room. The soft murmur of voices, the rustle of garments, the glow of lamplight flickering against stone walls. You can almost feel the warmth in the air, a warmth that is not from the fire, but from faith itself. These were the same men and women who only hours before had sat in silence, weighed down by grief and fear. Now, their hearts lift like morning birds. Their eyes shine. Their souls remember what it feels like to believe. Resurrection is not only about what happened at the tomb. It is about what happens in hearts, when despair gives way to recognition, when sorrow opens its door, and joy steps through. Every tear shed in loss is now part of this miracle. Every doubt transformed into testimony. The circle of belief widens, from two travelers on a road to a room full of witnesses, and soon to a world that will never be the same. They speak the name of Jesus over and over, as if saying it keeps the light alive. And it does, for his name is life itself. Then, a sudden stillness moves through the room, a hush that silences every whisper and turns every heart toward listening. It is not fear, but awe, a sense that something or someone has entered the space unseen. The air thickens with peace. A presence, familiar, gentle, holy, fills the silence like dawn filling the horizon. The disciples glance at one another, their eyes wide, their breath caught. The same presence they felt on the road, the same warmth from the table in Emmaus, is here again. No door opens, no footsteps sound, and yet they know Christ is near as breath. They can feel his love pressing softly against their fear. They can sense his smile, unseen but unmistakable. And in that presence, The circle of belief closes and becomes whole. He is risen, and he is here. And though they do not yet see him with their eyes, they know beyond doubt the Lord lives within and among them. This is the beginning of the church, not in a temple of stone, but in the hearts of those who have seen and believed. The sound of weeping changes tone. It is no longer sorrow. It is worship. Soft, holy, endless. The night holds its breath, for heaven has found a home in human hearts again. The room is quiet again, not with fear, but with awe. The air feels heavy, not with sorrow, but with holiness. The disciples sit close together, the lamp flickering low, its glow trembling across their faces. The bread from Emmaus still rests upon the table, and the fragrance of it lingers, warm, sweet, alive. They do not speak much now. Every heart feels full, every soul still burning. There is no need for more words. The silence itself is prayer, because he is here, not in form, not in sight, but in presence. The air hums softly with it. That unmistakable peace, that quiet certainty, that fills a space when Christ draws near. He had vanished from their eyes, but he had not left the room. He had not left them. The truth begins to bloom within them like light in the dawn. He will never leave again. Not bound to a single place, not limited by sight or sound, but alive in spirit. Everywhere love is felt, everywhere hearts believe. Close your eyes for a moment and feel that same stillness. That soft weight of peace that sits just behind your breathing. That warmth that grows when you whisper his name. That is the presence. Invisible, but undeniable. The same that filled the road to Emmaus. The same that fills this quiet moment now. You do not need to see him to know he is near. He walks the unseen paths of your days, sits beside you in your long nights. He listens to the words you do not say. He answers prayers too deep for speech. He is not a memory of the road. He is the road, the companion of every soul that seeks light in darkness. The disciples begin to understand. Faith was never meant to hold him in one place. It was meant to carry him everywhere. They remember his words, spoken before the cross. I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Oi. And now, those words live within them. No longer promise, but truth. They glance around the room, and though they see only shadow and light, they feel surrounded, embraced. Every fear that once ruled their hearts has bowed before peace. The presence remains, gentle as breath, strong as sunrise. They feel it in the quiet pulsing of their veins, in the steadiness returning to their spirits. It is the kind of peace that holds without holding, that stays without speaking. The invisible Christ has become the visible flame in their hearts. And they know this is how he will remain, not confined to tables or tombs, but alive wherever hearts burn with love. The lamp flickers, then steadies again. The night outside presses close, but within, light lingers. Their eyes lift toward the ceiling, their hearts lift toward heaven, and they whisper, each in their own tongue, each in their own way, "Thank you for staying, for being here, even when unseen." Oi! And the air seems to answer with a peace too deep for sound. The invisible presence fills the room like fragrance fills the air. Unseen, unending, unmistakable. He has not gone. He has simply moved from beside them to within them. The night deepens outside, and the streets of Jerusalem fall quiet again. The air, cool and clear, carries the scent of stone and rain. Within the small upper room, the disciples sit together, hearts steady now, souls still glowing from the fire of revelation. The two travelers, those who had run from Emmaus, sit near the bread, their faces soft with remembrance. They speak quietly, retracing each step of the road, not out of longing, but out of wonder. Every mile, every question, every word spoken by the stranger returns now with deeper meaning. They remember his voice, low and calm, carrying the rhythm of eternity. They remember how the scriptures came alive as he spoke, how grief began to loosen, how peace began to unfold, and how, when he broke the bread, their hearts knew before their eyes could see. The road to Emmaus was more than a path between two towns. It was the story of the soul. Close your eyes for a moment and walk that road again. The path of confusion, the journey through disappointment, the weight of questions you cannot answer. You have known that road. We all have. It is the road where faith feels uncertain, and God feels far. The place where silence seems heavier than prayer. But it is also the road where Christ meets us unseen. He walks it still, beside those who grieve, beside those who search, beside those whose hope flickers but has not died. The road to Emmaus is the sacred middle, between sorrow and joy, between the cross and the crown. It is the place where hearts burn before eyes open, where presence walks before recognition. And every believer, at some time, will walk it too. The disciples listen as the travelers recount the moment their eyes were opened. Their voices grow softer. Their faces shine with quiet tears. He took the bread. He blessed it. He broke it. He gave it to us. They pause, breathing the memory like incense. And then, one whispers, "He was gone. But everything was changed." Oi! The others nod slowly. The words strike something deep within them. A truth they feel rather than think. The Christ who vanished from sight had not left. He had simply revealed how close he would always be. The road to Emmaus was not the end of the journey. It was the beginning of all journeys. For from that day forward, every path walked in faith would carry his unseen footprints beside our own. The oil lamp trembles slightly in its glass, a small golden flame, mirroring the glow in their hearts. And they understand. Faith was never about seeing him, but recognizing him. In scripture, in bread, in love shared, in peace that stays when the world trembles. They realize now, he is not a guest who must be invited to stay. He is the staying. He is the nearness itself. The journey of Emmaus has become a pattern for the soul. To walk, to weep, to listen, to see, and then to return, carrying light back into the world. They smile through quiet tears, their hearts still warm with the presence that lingers. They do not need to search anymore. The one they sought has found them. And now, they will walk every road differently. The road of sorrow has become the road of recognition. The path of doubt has become the path of peace. And what began as departure has become return. The journey is not over. It has only just begun. The night holds steady, the air thick with peace, and the flicker of the lamp paints slow light upon their faces. The disciples speak softly, their words now fewer, their hearts now full. They no longer try to explain what happened. Some truths are not meant to be understood with the mind, but carried in the soul. They sit quietly, each one turning inward, seeing again that moment of revelation, the breaking of bread, the meeting of eyes, the quiet smile that changed everything. They know now, Christ reveals himself in the ordinary, not only in miracles and mountains, but in the soft and simple things of life. In walking, in sharing, in eating together, in the breaking of bread. He had broken the barrier between heaven and earth. Close your eyes for a moment and think of where you've seen him. Not with your eyes, but with your heart. maybe in the kindness of a stranger, the forgiveness of a friend, the quiet courage that rose inside you when you felt afraid. That is recognition. It comes softly, without trumpet or thunder. It arrives in the stillness, when love becomes visible through small things, when the ordinary turns holy. That is where Christ lives. The disciples begin to understand what their hearts had known all along. The journey was never about distance. It was about awareness. He had been beside them the entire time. And he is beside them still. Faith, they realize, is not about searching for God. It is about noticing Him. Noticing the sacred in the simple, the divine in the daily, the holy in the human. When He spoke, they listened. When He broke bread, they saw. And now, when they remember, they know. They whisper to one another, and their words move like prayer through the room. He was with us from the very beginning. Oi! The truth feels gentle, and yet enormous. Their hearts ache again, but this time, with gratitude. The kind of ache that love leaves behind when it is too beautiful to contain. They smile through quiet tears. Each glance between them feels like communion. Each breath feels like worship. Recognition does not end with sight. It begins with it. And once you have seen Christ in one moment, you begin to see Him everywhere. In the laughter of children, in the patience of age, in the kindness that crosses difference, in the silence that heals. They realize that the world is now different. Not because it has changed, but because they have. Their eyes, once dimmed by grief, now see with faith. And that kind of sight cannot be taken away. They sit together until the lamp burns low. The shadows on the walls stretch longer, then fade. But the light within them does not fade. It grows. And it will grow still. For Christ has taught them, and teaches us still, that He is not waiting to be found in distant places. He is walking beside us now. In every step, every sorrow, every act of love. And when the heart learns to notice, the world itself becomes Emmaus. The night grows late, but no one wishes to sleep. The air is still warm from the lamp's last glow, and the hush inside the room feels like a resting heartbeat. The disciples linger, their voices soft, their memories alive. Every word spoken feels touched by reverence. Every silence hums with what cannot be said. The story of the road has become more than a memory. It has become a mirror of how Christ meets every soul that walks in longing. They realize now that the Emmaus journey was not meant for them alone. It was written for all who walk this earth. For every traveler who wonders where God has gone. Because the truth of that road is that He never left. He never leaves. Close your eyes for a moment and walk again with them in spirit. The cool of the evening air against your skin. The soft crunch of gravel beneath your feet. The ache in your chest. Not from fear now, but from beauty too great to contain. He is beside you. Perhaps unseen, but never absent. His silence is not distance. It is depth. The Christ of Emmaus walks every road. He steps through every sorrow, listens to every question, waits at every table. And when the moment is right, He makes Himself known. Not to overwhelm you, but to remind you that love has never stopped walking toward you. The disciples look to one another, and the peace between them feels timeless. They have seen the pattern. They understand now that every believer's life is its own Emmaus. Every question, every prayer, every slow step through confusion, all of it is the path that leads to recognition. Hearts burn, eyes open, faith awakens. And once awakened, the soul never walks alone again. The eternal walk of Christ does not end at Emmaus. It continues through ages, through nations, through hearts. Wherever two or three walk in hope, He is there. Wherever love is shared, He abides. The breaking of bread never ceases. Each act of kindness, each word of grace, each moment of mercy is another revelation. The risen Lord walks still. In hospitals, in homes, in prisons, in marketplaces, in every place where the human heart aches for light, He walks. And when we least expect it, He turns toward us on the road and smiles. The disciples lift their eyes to the horizon of thought. They see their future differently now. No path will ever be empty again. No sorrow truly alone. No step without purpose. Their journey back to Jerusalem will lead to others, and those to still more, until the whole earth echoes with the truth that the Lord walks among us still. The story that began in grief ends in glory. And yet, it is not an ending. It is the beginning of the eternal walk. The same walk we take now. Every prayer, every act of faith, every silent moment of trust is one more step beside Him. You are walking Emmaus too, and the Lord is walking with you. Dawn begins to stir at the edge of the world, a pale gold light tracing the outline of distant hills. The first birds call softly through the quiet, and the long night exhales. Inside the room, the disciples rest in silence. The oil lamp has burned low, its flame now small and steady, but still alive, like faith that has endured the dark. They sit together, their faces calm, their hearts open. The bread, now only crumbs upon the table, still carries the scent of heaven. And in that simple fragrance, they remember, He is near. The two travelers from Emmaus lean back against the wall, eyes half closed, smiling softly. They are tired, but not weary. Their bodies ache from the road, yet their souls feel weightless. The peace that fills them is not the peace of rest, but the peace of knowing. They understand now, this story has no ending. The road goes on. From Jerusalem to Emmaus, from Emmaus to the world, from the world to every soul that listens in faith. Close your eyes and breathe slowly. The same Christ who walked that dusty road walks beside you still. He is in every unseen kindness, every quiet forgiveness, every moment of stillness where peace finds you. He is in the breaking of bread, in the holding of hands, in the breath you take between thoughts. He is here, not far, not distant, not hidden in heaven's unreachable light, but here, within and around, gentle as air, steady as love itself. The disciples sit together, and the morning light spills softly across the table. It catches the edges of the bread and glows upon their faces. The same warmth they felt on the road stirs again within them. They smile, and one of them whispers softly, "He did stay with us after all." And indeed, He did. Not only for that night in Emmaus, but for every night that followed, for every road that would be walked in faith, for every heart that would ache and then awaken. Christ stays, not as a guest, but as home itself. The road may twist through shadow and silence, through question and waiting, but He is always there. The companion who never leaves, the presence that never fades, the love that walks beside us, even when unseen. Outside, the sun lifts higher, the fields shimmer with light. The world begins again. And so does faith. The disciples rise quietly, their hearts like still water reflecting morning sky. They step out into the new day, carrying peace like fire in their chests. They walk, not away from Emmaus, but forward into the world God so loves. Each step another prayer, each breath another Amen. The road stretches endlessly before them. But now they know, it is holy ground, for the Lord of the journey walks within it, always near, always present, always love. And so the story rests, not in ending, but in peace. The hearts that once burned in sorrow burn now with everlasting light. The road continues, and the companion remains. Be still, and know He is here.